During Reconstruction, when the playing field was leveled, blacks only wanted to be successful in this country, and they wanted to do, under the law, whatever it took to be successful. In 1865 to 1877, that meant owning a farm, mostly in the South where blacks lived, exercising your right to vote so that you could have representation, and being a landowner, a planter, a provider, a manufacturer, a business owner. Those are the people that are well respected in American society. That's the attainment of the American dream. And Grandpa was successful at doing that.
Yes, this is the old home place. It's the place where we originated from. Under the guidance of Anthony Crawford.
That's where we were slaves at?
We wasn't slaves here.
Oh. Well, we couldn't have been far, right?
Well, it was a long ways from slaves because Anthony owned everything here.
At some point, we weren't free African Americans. We were
that was
enslaved.
before Anthony's time. Anthony was always free.
Well, he was born in, there's conflicting dates, but the most consistent one is 1865, the year slavery ended. So even as a child, he may have possibly been born into slavery. Anthony Crawford was my great-great-grandfather. One of his children, George, is my great-grandfather. My grandmother was born in Abbeville on his property while he was still living.
He was probably born on a plantation.
Yeah.
But from what I can tell, that his father was able to branch out and be a free man.
Mighty quickly. Because you're right, even after slavery, we were shareholders, sharecroppers, shareholders, like Enron.
I remember when I was a boy coming back here, when I was 4 or 5, when other people had moved over here on the land, that it was a large house with a porch all the way around it. And to my understanding, expensive marble rock around it.
Were the columns?
Yes, it was columns on the front. He owned land on both sides of the road, from Penny Creek to Little River.
It's a powerful thing to step where they stepped. But it's also a sense of pride to know that they did something with it, you know? They just weren't working for someone, they were the employers. So
it's kind of strange how Doria and I met, because one Sunday morning, I don't know what drove me to get up and come to church about 45 minutes early. Service started approximately 10 o'clock, and about 20 minutes to 10, the phone started ringing, and it was Doria, tracing her roots.
When he answered the phone, of course I didn't know it was my cousin. I just told him, my name is Doria Johnson, and I'm trying to research my family history. I have an ancestor who belonged to the church by this name, and his name was Anthony Crawford. It was very surprising and shocking, but it was also very exciting. I called, all of the Crawfords here and said, did you know that we had family in Abbeville, and we still belong to the church that our family had belonged to since slavery ended? Some of my aunts were not surprised to hear that we had family down there. They knew that, but they didn't know, that we actually had still went to the same church. The first time I went to Abbeville, which was shortly after having that phone conversation with Philip, Philip also knew that I was interested in kind of reconstructing what happened to Anthony Crawford and what happened to the family. So he gave me the name of an historian from the area and said that he knew a lot, and he'd probably be very willing to help me. So I called Dr. Ware, and he sent me a lot of information within a week of me talking to him. And so that gave me a base to start out researching.
The Anthony Crawford story is one of the main things I think that happened in Abbeville. And so that I got very interested in it there. And I went through the estate papers, and I went through the business of finding everything that I could find that was written about him. And I found a lot of little articles in the paper, usually saying what a successful farmer he was. And of course, how many bales of cotton, how many bushels of corn, and the things that he brought to town and so forth. So generally the newspapers use him as Exhibit A of how blacks could be successful.
Anthony Crawford represented a very, very small element of blacks here in the South who rose out of that condition to become a landowner and prosperous. And for white supremacists, they didn't like that. They just didn't like that.
Grandpa Crawford was an astute businessman. He was president of the Black Masons of South Carolina. He was secretary of Cypress Chapel AME Church, the church his father helped found. He was owner of 427 acres of prime cotton land. My family, the Crawford family, was very much a part of the whole movement to own property. And that's what blacks wanted more than anything else, more than the ability to read, the ability to sort of circumvent any white power structure. The way they saw the best way to exercise their freedom was to own land.
Little River does this number.
Mm-hmm.
Does not follow this line.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then Penny Creek is pretty well following this line.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were on in this location, Little River on the west, Penny on Penny on the west, Little River on the east, it would have had to have been in here,
right,
or above us, and
further
it's possible it could have been below here.
Right.
Because Cypress Chapel Road is right back here.
And the church?
The church is right back
It's
back
further
here.
down. And
see, that probably was a home place.
My family moved off the home place when I was 3 weeks old. We moved on down below the church on Cypress Road. I'm the great-grandson of Anthony Crawford. Anthony was a self-made man. He knew how to live off the land. He owned everything he needed to live on his farm.
As I got to be a teenager and I kept hearing this story, bits and pieces of a story, and I saw a big picture of Grandpa Crawford in my Aunt Annabelle's home, you know, I can't say I felt a real connection to him.
No, the picture's not going out of the house. No, ma'am.
And it's really a conversation piece when people would visit and come into the home. Well, who is that? And then you tell them the history and the experience that this family has had to surge on through.
Well, they were a big family. There were 16 of them, and they loved each other, and they were a very close-knit family up until that time. And my grandfather having so much land and doing so much on the land that was their life.
Doria has done a magnificent job. Her research has really given even more insights as to what happened.
Here we go. Box 303. Thank God back then all of our family members answered the census, but you know, it's been probably 20 years that I've been looking at census records and piecing together a family tree. You know, you hear stories about ancestors, but to see their names actually enumerated on a sheet of paper, and it's exciting, it's freeing. I'm looking for the box that'll tell me where all of his property was disposed of. It's on
3042.
yes.
I'm gonna slide this one up just a little bit.
Nichols and Ferguson. Statement of account. Here we go. Here's the Rosenbergs. And that was December
This is the deceit.
1916.
So this was right after he died.
Yeah.
You wonder how all this stuff got into one packet, right? There were receipts and stuff like
I don't even know why
that.
they would even be
Yeah.
keeping it. L.A. Ritchie, that's the funeral home?
That's the funeral home.
1927. I mean 1916. I don't even know what that said.
Casket, robe, hearse, and moving a body by cash. Personally appeared and made.
600. What?
Personally appeared L.A. Ritchie and made. The story can be examined from so many different levels. And so I had to really sit down and get organized and decided which road I was going to travel down first. And I thought that finding family members was probably the most important to me. And then, you know, I'd have time to kind of research other aspects of him.